Greetings, infinite blessings, and welcome to another moment of now and another episode of Midday Mindfulness. My name is Kain Stromberg, and it is my honor to bring you this beautiful episode along with Zack. He has been on a journey of inner discovery for as long as myself, for as long as everybody that is listening, because remember, we are the universe embodied. We are eternal in our discovery of self to help lead and guide each other back home to the self. So Zack, my brother, welcome to the show, and thank you, truly thank you for making the space in time to be here. I know how busy you are at the moment, and it is a true honor to have you with us.
Kain, likewise. Thank you so much for having me here. It's really awesome. I love the setup you've got going on, and I have checked out a couple of your podcasts, and I think they're really good. So honored to be here as well, and thanks for having me on, and hello everyone.
Thank you, brother. And as we were just saying a minute ago, your name, and knowing that we're both in the UK, so anybody listening, please again let us know where you are around the world, so we can almost create a internal image of the lights that are focused and where they are upon this beautiful planet as we go about co-creating this world of betterment, a brighter future for all. Zack Hater, knowing that you are a lover, not a hater, it must have been quite a focal point for ridicule almost, or a reason for people to try to poke you and make fun of you. What was that like at school? And did that, now that you can look back at it, actually bring you learnings and growth in the person that you are, knowing that you're more than a name, that you're more than another person's perspective of you? Just let us know a little bit about basically the construct of your name and what was shown to you growing up that you now know not to be true, if you like.
Great question. Yeah, really well put question. Thank you. So, of course, my name is Zack Hater. That's Hater, Hayter. Mm-hmm. And so growing up, of course, like in school, primary school, secondary school, but more so secondary school, it's like, oh, do you hate everyone? Are you hateful? Or later it then came into, like, when social media started coming out and the internet started becoming more popular, I coined my own phrase with it, which was "hate is gonna hate." So it's just had to be done. And in school, I got to this point, I was bullied a bit in school because I was overweight, and I generally had this, as many light workers do, we come in, we got loads of karma, we go through a harsh time usually for many of us, and mm-hmm. I got bullied because of my weight, and then of course my name as well kind of combined in there as well. And of course my identity as a child, having this name Hater, and having that reflection back to me was from others as well, my peers in school. I let it affect my identity. I didn't have the tools or the knowledge or awareness to rise myself above it at all, so it stuck with me. But mm-hmm. it came later on where growing up, I started to, I realized, it's just a name, and start to view it in different angles and different perspectives, when you're trying to work on a belief system or an emotion, a stuck emotion, and try and observe it from different angles, particularly beliefs. And so that's what I did a lot. And one of those was finding out the origin of the name. So hay and ter, you would think it's something to do with hay bales in fields or something like that, but it's actually a name that originates from Devon, in Devon and Somerset and Cornwall in the UK, and it means living on a height, so heiter. Nice. So I could say it heiter, but anyway.
Nice.
That's so that kind of helped a lot, and I'm now so. The other part of the question, was reframing and how I've been able to work with that name, the name I have. And so I'm at this point now where I'm, 30 years old now, and I'm coming up to 30 this year. And I as we all grow up and get a bit older around this time, 30, late 20s, we start to really step into our power and identity, and we really know ourselves. And so this is where I'm at now, but I'm feeling very comfortable with my name, but also I also realize if I want to be putting myself out into the public, it's something that I'm considering reframing or changing, but then if I do change it, I want it to be something that is in alignment with my soul. So I've got to find that out.
And that's where we open up to divine guidance. As you know yourself, as you were saying, it's something to meditate on, something to open up to receive guidance from outside of ourselves, which is really just internal guidance. And as you were saying, growing up at school, we take upon all these learnings, which turn into programs and beliefs. And we're always doing the best we can. As a child, you have no other information at your disposal other than the events and situations that you're experiencing firsthand. Let's say if you are watching a program on the telly, then you're only subjected to the information within that program. The more experiences we have through life, the more information we have at our disposal. Then we get to a point, like you say, for myself, late 20s, early 30s, I'm mid 30s now. So it's been a period of time when I have stopped looking outside myself and started to look internally, started to realize that every belief is just like a program installed on a computer. And if we go about continuously running it unknowingly, unmindfully, then it will govern our entire life. You've taken the opportunity to step back, to look at previous events and to actually learn and grow from them. And that, my brother, is something incredibly powerful. And I would suggest the reason that you are upon this journey. So with today's episode being titled A Man's Love for Himself, please let us know how it is you've gone from a position of maybe being slightly separated from that connection of love internally and seeking it externally, seeking external validations and connections, to being able to come to a full embodiment and realization of the fact that you are love embodied, universal love in the physical form, here to express and just to enjoy this beautiful adventure that we call life.
Oh, what a brilliant question. Excellent question. Oh, well, yeah, okay.
Straight in the deep end.
Nice. Yeah, excellent. So it kind of ties in as well. I can frame the whole, right, my surname is Hater, right? Mm-hmm. Hate and love, like almost, well, some people consider those to be opposites. And so for me to be where I am right now on my own vibrational standpoint, as I exist today and this version of myself now, beautiful. I couldn't be here without the amount of love that I brought into myself and cultivated within myself. So looking back like 10 years ago, or even 5 or 7 years ago, I was a very different version of myself. I was very much more insecure. I didn't really love myself, like not consciously, or didn't ever really even consider it as needing, as a necessity. And then it came to about 2014. I read my first book, which was, one of my first spiritual books, which was The Pleiadian Agenda, A New Cosmology for the Age of Light. That then woke me up and turned my mind into a pretzel. Literally. So
we've all experienced that. Anybody listening to this show has experienced that moment where your conscious mind is almost blown into a million pieces and you're like, whoa, okay, it's going to take me a while to start to actually integrate all that back into myself with this deeper understanding of who I am. Yeah,
spot on. Yeah, that's it. It's all the time, and all that integration process, connecting those dots up. Definitely. Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. So going through that time, that was 2014. And it wasn't really until about 3 years ago, because I was studying channeled material, personal development, spiritual teachings, all kinds, over the past 7 years, very consistently. But it wasn't really until 3 years ago or 2 years ago, 2 years ago, it really clicked to me that I was like, so love and like stuck emotions, like that's the weapon. Like that's the not the weapon, that's probably not the right word, but like love is the tool for us to clear all of our karma. And Beautiful. I never made the connection. So and then so 2 years ago I really started looking more into like love cultivation and stuff, and I realized, I mean, probably everybody watching this podcast has done some inner work on themselves, or is actively consciously doing their inner work, and as have I as well. It was really, for me, it was interesting. It was 2018 was like the first year that I started having heavy, I started experiencing all of those heavy emotions. So I went through the twin flame journey and then another relationship. So the past 3 years, I've cried more than any point in my life. But through that,
Thank you.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, thank you. And what a beautiful release, the energy of that, all that crying, same as
exactly.
For you. Well, the planet gets lighter every time. So it was that time with all that intense, all this stuck emotion, all the solar plexus and the heart, lifetimes after lifetimes all built up and all just pouring out now because of all the energetics. They just can't stay down anymore. But what I found was, at the start of this 3-year period, I was like, right, okay, all I need to do is just feel my emotions. I don't have to do anything else. I've just got to feel it and let it express itself. And okay, that's cool. That worked. But then I felt that it wasn't really, I noticed improvements in my sense of well-being, but like it wasn't that much. It was almost like the same emotions, the same layers of emotions, while they've been felt, they would kind of come back like weeks down the line. Maybe it was a different layer of emotion. And it's just me interpreting it wrong, but I felt a bit stuck, like I wasn't really getting anywhere. And then it was about a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago now, that I put 2 and 2 together. I was doing some study, some researching, and okay, so if I just place my hands on my heart, and this is a really good method for everybody watching, by the way, if I just place my hands on my heart and either use consistent affirmations or use visualization, or a combination of the two, and just repeating with the baseline affirmation of I love you, and repeating and just repeating that over and over again, and then mixing it up after a while as well. Sometimes it will lose its oomph with just that on repeat. So, and then switching it up and getting creative depending on the emotion I'm feeling. Or even if I'm just doing this to build up my love levels, it's just like, I love you, I'm here for you, I care for you, I have the utmost compassion for you.
And who is it you're speaking to here?
Self.
Beautiful.
But that's the interesting thing as well. It's like when dealing with a heavy emotion, or even when not dealing with a heavy emotion, I really like visualizing when I'm here, eyes closed and hands on heart, in my mind's eye, just visualizing my inner child, my 2-year-old self, either in my heart space or just in my mind, and directing that love energy towards that 2-year-old version of self. That's one of the most profoundly healing things I've ever done.
Beautiful. So anybody listening that is not with us on the video, anybody listening on the podcast, go ahead and join with us for a moment as you place your hands on your heart or cross them over your shoulders as a symbol of self-love. And then just repeat as you close your eyes and you focus back to a version of yourself that may be feeling lost and alone, misunderstood, and potentially fearful in some way, shape, or form. I see you, me. I understand you. I accept you. And I embrace you. I appreciate you. And I love you. I love you, me. I love you, me. I love you, me. And this is such a beautiful reminder to the self. And to be able to go back and give that inner child the feeling of warmth and safety, the connection that you are able to bring to yourself. Literally going back and saying, I know that you experienced things that were potentially traumatic at the time. And now that we have more experiences to relate them to, now that we can actually see a bigger picture from a higher perspective, just as upon the top of that mountain, it means that we can actually understand what took place more. Or even if we can't, we can bring acceptance into the situation. Sometimes we can never fully understand it within the physical construct, within the awareness of the human potential, but we can bring acceptance into it. A full acceptance of all that is, was, or ever shall be. That, my friends, is what will set you free. Set us all free. It's a beautiful reminder. Thank you, Zack.
That was beautiful how you put that as well. Thank you for that. That was how you did it as well. It's one thing I found with this affirmation process. We could sit there and I tell people, if you're going to get the most out of this process, it's good to practice it for at least 2 minutes a day, every day, or 5 minutes, or as long as you can, until you build up your love tank, your love energy fuel tank, to the point where but how you did that, I could feel through your words that you've done this before. And
many a time.
Yeah, that's it. And so, but would you say that really 95% of it is the intention?
It's all about the intention. It's all about the vibration and the embodiment of full acceptance. And the first time you do it, or the first time I did it, I didn't want to do it. The words were, it was difficult to release the words. I love you, me. Literally like straining the words out. But that's not a very nice visualization to bring. But we all know that when we're emptying our bowels, it's more beneficial to relax into the process than try to force it out. Yeah. So the first few, and I've got a video where I actually did this quite some time ago now, and I'm crying, I'm bawling, saying I love you, me. And the release of emotion, once I actually accepted that love from myself, that's what's brought me to this place. And a very powerful way of practicing this, once you're anybody listening that would like to take upon this daily practice, let's say, and a mantra that you can just repeat to yourself anytime that you find that you're waiting, let's say in traffic or in a queue for something, especially at the moment when we're all sat or stood there in queues, all face to the ground. Nobody's really connecting with each other anymore. You can connect back to yourself and just repeat that affirmation. I love you, me. I love you, me. And if you do it in the mirror, looking into your own eyes, you can actually connect to your soul. You can connect to your higher self. So you can allow your higher self to have full connection to your avatar self, your conscious self or egoic self, whatever label you'd like to put on it. Remembering every time we label something, we actually limit it to the construct and confines of the label. So my label is I'm the universe in completion, unlimited in potential in all ways. Therefore, I am. So say I am, and so it is. But it's a beautiful realization to know that it does all start with him and ends with him. And I have been very similar in my journey from a place of self-hatred, almost self-defiance, it almost as though I was trying to undermine and destroy my potential for happiness in the past because of, again, programs, learnings, beliefs. How far back they go, who knows? Right to the very start of time. One of my previous past life regression therapies that I had with somebody else was incredibly powerful, and it took the weight of the entire world off my shoulders. I was shown that I was basically responsible. I was employed by a French king to go around and enforce his rule. So anybody that tried to stand up against him or speak ill of him, it was my job to take my troops in and to deal with them. And I was responsible for the mass genocide of whole villages, like men, women, and children. And I died alone, an alcoholic in a bar, and my family didn't want to be part of my life, etc., etc. Most people, if you had this conversation with them, they would say, "What the fuck are you on? What are you talking about?" And I was the same, because I grew up with a very two sides to this. My parents were both very separate in their views. My father is, for want of a better expression, a gangster. He's coming out actually this year. He got sentenced to 28 years in prison, which is absolutely ridiculous for really what it was he was doing in comparison to somebody else that would take a life and get a quarter of the time. But again, it is as it is. And then my mother was very free in her views and very, very expansive in a connection to that which I now know to be true. When she used to do yoga, I remember as a kid, she used to go and do yoga and Pilates and things over the park or on the beach when we were there, and it'd be so embarrassing. And I think, fuck's sake, man, what are you doing? Embarrassing me. Oh, I'm trying to be this cool, mad young man. And now I do it myself. And I'll go and I'll happily just go and do yoga in the middle of the park, and everybody stops and is very interested. And I know that actually I'm probably allowing them to think, oh, that looks interesting. Maybe I could do something like that. And it's sparking that inspiration in other people. And again, when you've come into a full realization of the love that you have, the love that you are, just like that light, everywhere you go, you now shine your light brightly for others to see. And as we were discussing before, you're at a point now where you feel that there's a decision to be made to walk forwards upon a path towards your destination, towards your, not that we're fated, but towards the life that you would wish to experience, let's say. And it's a realization and remembrance again that there is nothing that's ever wrong unless we decide it's wrong. So again, if you would like to elaborate slightly on what it is that the placement that you're at and the decisions you're making, all based around the fact that when you place yourself first, you can then place other people first. It's all to do with self-love to be able to then love another. If we don't love ourselves, if we don't accept ourselves, first of all, we can't accept other people. And then through acceptance comes gratitude. And then through gratitude comes love. They're the three steps that I would always share with anybody that was upon a journey of connecting back to the truth of who they are. Accept it all, be grateful for it all. Even if somebody's been repressive in your life, they've played that character role perfectly to allow you to learn and to grow through those situations. To be grateful for them all, the people who love you and the people who hate you in the human construct. Give them all love, give them all appreciation, gratitude and love. And then it's beautiful. Everywhere you go, you are love and you see love externally. So what is it at the moment that you would be able to share with anybody listening that is maybe a little bit stuck in between a feeling that, oh, I don't want to be too third dimensional and focus on material possessions. I'm a spiritual being and therefore I should do everything spiritually, skipping around on unicorns and rainbows all the time. Remembering that we are here in the third dimension to have a physical experience, to learn and to grow from it. And whilst we're here, we require certain things such as a house to live in and clothes to wear and food to eat. You know, we can't just skip around all the time riding bareback on unicorns, as joyful and blissful as it could be. You know?
Love it. Okay. Oh, brilliant. I love your questions. Okay. So right. It's kind of a combination I can do here of things, different elements of this, of how I want to explain. So we've got the first part of this so the difference between, playing the 3D game and playing the 5D game.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here, as you say, we're in third density, the third and fourth dimensions. And we're here for the next few decades. This century, essentially. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good question. Now, of course, Now, this is the thing when it comes to this whole, people are always going to have conflicts, especially when they're on a spiritual path and they're like, right, I've got all of this energy inside me. I can direct it in any direction I want. And people realize that. People who have stepped into their power realize that they can create anything. And that's probably a vast amount of people watching this. So there's two perspectives that I'm, in a way, have conflict within about at the moment. That, as I said before, it's really just a case of meditating, which I've been putting off because I've just been being a busy fool almost. So I'm not really practicing what I preach every day as much as I could be. But so we've got this idea that, for example, you look at, Jesus or the Buddha, and these individuals were human beings who, just like anybody else. But the difference with, for example, Jesus was he lived and breathed in such a way that his connection with God was very strong. Now, the thing is, any person, any human being can have that same connection that he had with God and to be able to perform the same miracles and things like that. And of course, when it comes down to Jesus and we observe him as a healer who served people. So did Jesus charge people money for the healings that he did and the help that he gave? No, he didn't. Not as far as I'm aware anyway. Or perhaps he did a few times, but I'm not sure if he did. As far as I'm aware, I don't believe he ever really did. It was more, he was just giving of himself freely. Yeah. And the thing with that dynamic is, because God, ultimately, the God, wants himself, herself, wants all of their children to be helped. And so that gives every single human being on the planet the opportunity, a potential to be able to say, hey, I'm going to be a hand of God and give that service that God wants for free. Now, the interesting thing here is you could walk, I'll call it a Christed path in this case, I'll call it a Christed path of service. And in this Christed path of service, you do as Jesus did. You heal people for free. You give of yourself freely. You give your energy away for free in that way. But the dynamic there is you will then be rewarded for the energy that you give out. And that has to happen. And a lot of the times it will be threefold. So what you give out for free in that way, it will come back to you 3 times over. And
the rule of 3.
Yeah, the rule of 3. So there's also... So there's that idea, there's that way of being it. And this is one aspect I'm looking at now. It's like, right, I've actually got financial security. I've got a passive income stream right now, which is supporting me enough to be able to just not do anything if I didn't want to. I could just sit here all day long and do nothing. But
that's not going to be beneficial for anybody involved, surely. The periods of time of tranquility and nothingness are important for every development, every journey. But yeah.
And so I got this conflict where it's like, right, I could thank you for this, because I'm just realizing things now just through explaining it.
I'm also listening and receiving information, so I'm going to ask if you're up for actually doing an integration. I know it's incredibly bizarre and it's really weird to do it on the show, but it will allow people to see the power and potential of the work that we do, brother.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm up for that. Let's try that. So I'll just finish explaining this
Please do.
Dynamic that I have. So, of course, there's the Christed path of service that I'm calling it, where you give of yourself for free and then you receive massive rewards in return. Then there's also this idea of like, okay, I want to establish another income stream so that I can have enough money to comfortably go and live in my own place somewhere around the world and just really not worry about money then, because at the moment and so Yeah, it's too different.
I love the fact that you brought up Jesus, because again, this is incredibly deep, and I haven't really, I can share this truth now because it's just my experience. It's my belief. It's my truth. Knowing that each person's perspective, every single piece of information that somebody delivers to you, please take it as truth, because it's their truth. It may not be your truth. It may not be collectively averaged out as a truth. It may not be vibrationally in alignment to that which is most harmonic in a connection to what we classify as truth, but it's their truth. And if we can take somebody else's truth and then evolve and expand upon it, as opposed to going, no, you're wrong, this is the right information, they're always going to be more open to receive it. Okay. So everybody listening, I have direct contact to Christ consciousness. It was shown to me about 2 months ago, and I was shown that it was to do with not being wanted, not being loved. So I went into the journey, into the vision, and I was shown a baby being placed in a basket and pushed off down a stream. And I was like, what? So I'm Moses, am I? And the reason that I don't feel loved is because I was pushed downstream as a baby. And the voice, God, whatever voice it is, was like, yes, and you're Jesus, and you're Buddha, and you're Allah, and you're all of them. You're all of them embodied. You can't be one thing and not them all. And I was like, okay, I can be Moses. I can accept that in a past life I was Moses, but to be Jesus, that's a bit much. That's a bit too controversial. So I spent quite a long time just sitting with it, accepting that connection. And honestly, the last couple of weeks since I fully allowed that frequency to flow through me, I manifest instantly, almost instantly now, as opposed to before. It might be you desire something, you request it from the universe, and then you almost keep a little focal point on it, like, oh, when's it coming? It's like ordering something in the mail, order something from Amazon, next day delivery, and then you're waiting expectedly for it to arrive through the post. Oh, it's not here yet. It must be here tomorrow. Oh, it's not here yet. I'm getting frustrated now. Why is it not here? So it's knowing that when we almost ask an aspect of ourself, which is still ourself, but higher than ourself, for guidance, we can then just freely skip along the path. Couple of things. God does not want for anything. The desire and the want brings a lack of it. God doesn't want for all his children to be helped. God, in my experience, is just watching, is just viewing. And every time that we can become the watcher and we can disattach a mind focal point on it, a desire to have a positive or negative outcome in our perception, when we don't mind it, we can just view it and learn from it as though it's just an experience, as opposed to being egoically attached to it. It's only our ego that then goes, oh, that's right or that's wrong. I want this or I want that. I would suggest that everything is an exchange of energy. Jesus didn't charge firsthand, but it was well known that in order to receive his healings, you would donate to him enough to provide him a week's sustenance to continue upon his journey.
Oh, right.
So it wouldn't be, you have to pay me X in order to receive Y. It would be, I'm here to provide you, knowing that he's created, just as I have done, just as you have, boundaries in place so that people don't feel, otherwise we attract people that want to connect to us and feed off us, drain us. We attract people that are drains as opposed to taps. Taps fill us up. We're taps. We fill ourselves up and then we overflow to other people. Drains just think that they can come along and take from you because they have experienced negativity in life, and therefore they should be able to come and take.
Yeah.
We all know these people. These are not our people, but they allow us the gift of realization that they're not our people to then create strong boundaries. Everything I do is an exchange of energy. And the further that you place yourself aloft, knowing that it is a pyramid structure, that mathematically the square is the masculine, the circle is the feminine, but mathematically the triangle is the strongest object in existence. So It has to exist, therefore, in a pyramid scheme. But the degree of angle doesn't have to be as severe. So here's a little pyramid. I have lots of different things by the computers to balance out the energies. So instead of having a structure that's so severe in its pitch, we lower it to the point where there's still three sides, but the difference in the top and the bottom is so minute it can't even be seen. In order to allow the people to raise up themselves, we raise ourselves up to then give them a viewpoint, a destination, a focal point of inspiration, if you like a champagne tower where you put champagne glasses in a triangle, you fill the top one up. That's you. You fill yourself up and you overflow to everybody else, and you fill everybody else up. Doing so, you're continuously full. If you stop overflowing to everybody else, then you no longer can actually be full to completion. It's like, oh, I'll just fill myself up to the top. And then as I actually use that energy in myself to do what I want to do, I fill myself back up to the top. And it's this massive internal conflict of depleting yourself and filling yourself up, depleting and filling. When we're continuously full and overflowing, everybody benefits. In order to be at that level, you are required by the laws of existence, by God. God wants you to live your best life. He doesn't want you to live for another person. He wants you, or she wants you, they want you, we want you, I want you. I want you to live for you. I want you to put you first, follow your heart, so then you can actually inspire other people to do the same thing. When we try to heal other people, when we put our feeling of worth or attach our love to somebody else, it's like, if I do X, Y, and Z, then somebody will love me. And if they love me, then I'll be good enough. And then we go through our entire life trying to serve other people. There's a very fine balance in every situation, in every relationship, between serving another and first of all serving yourself. As men, as awakened men, as divine masculines, our role is to provide structure and space for the feminine within ourselves first. So by being very polluted in my masculine energy before, I got incredibly domineering and repressive and controlling, to the point where I became 18 stone of muscle and anger, and I wanted to control everything in life, because I felt that I didn't really have any control inside. So I had to therefore control everything outside. At the time, I obviously didn't realize this. It's not until we look back that we realize these programs and where they took us in life. And now I've created this beautiful feeling of safety. So at the start of the day, let's say I structure my day in almost squares for the masculine to feel that it has a sense of control over what's taking place. And then within those squares, I joyfully and playfully skip and create using my feminine. And when we do that with ourselves, we can then do that outside ourselves. So again, anybody listening that is working at home at the moment, this is incredibly important, that when you work, you allow for that window of work and the space that you're working in to be an area of work. You've created it energetically as your workspace. When you've come to a point where you're having a break, exit the house, come back in. Then it's your house. Then it's your work. It's your break space. It's no longer your workspace. At the end of the day, cleanse the environment, cleanse the area, and then allow yourself to exit out of the creative masculine focal working side of things and back into the free-flowing feminine playful side of things, so that you can have relaxation at home instead of constantly be thinking, oh, I could just go and do 5 more minutes, or I could just finish off that project, or X, Y, and Z. And working for ourselves, this is incredibly important. So I've gone off on a bit of a rant there, and I've forgotten what where I even started at.
I have one more part to add to the whole scheme of things, and that I love what you said, by the way, about Jesus and receiving donations, because now this is my kind of crossroads, as I was saying about earlier on, where I have this one direction I can go down, which involves creating an e-commerce website with a business partner. If And so I feel with that, the catch with that is it's just getting off the ground now. It's going to be really good when it's done. And it's been a long time coming. And I know if I was to just give up now, that would be one more failure of a whole series of self-rejection failures that I've gone through lifetime after lifetime. So I'm going to make a success of that for that reason. But also, I then have, on the other hand, emotional alchemy and love energy cultivation coaching, one-on-one life coaching and emotional healing coaching, essentially. So, and that's this other thing where I know I could just put all of my 100% of myself into that, and that would I would have enough financial security that I wouldn't have to worry anyway. So, but so that's my divide. But also, I realize as well in regards to the coaching, and I love what you said about. Oh yeah.
For anybody watching, we're just screen sharing Zack's beautiful ability to actually connect with him one-on-one and the avenues to do so. So sorry to interrupt you.
No worries.
So this is your website?
Yeah, I've got to work on a few things I've got to change, but
always working, always expanding, always evolving. And we always have a point of grounding to evolve from. So you do one-on-one coaching, you've got courses. It's an incredible amount to have created already, whilst you're still focusing on almost finding your own foundation to move forward from.
Sure. I like how you put that. Thank you. Yeah. No, thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely a start. And so this is a part of it for me is knowing that, well, if I do charge money for this coaching work, which I'm going to, then it's okay. Just make sure I go almost above and beyond for my people. Make sure that I'm giving them, 100% of myself and giving the value that I know that I can give to them 100%, basically. So, and a big part of this whole situation now as well that I'm really fascinated by is the whole topic of this discussion and this podcast today is a man's love for himself.
Yeah.
And it's like we were in conversation earlier on about bringing in love energy to counteract the negative emotions and using affirmation and all of that. Now, the interesting thing here is it's like we're always there's always, and pretty much unlimited, well, not unlimited, but there's a certain different number of timelines that any one individual can go down at any particular point. And so, it's like a spirit, a non-physical being right now would observe us and see us 12 different doors around us, for example, that we could walk through to go towards. And now the door that we go through, I mean, every door is going to have a different kind of potential. It's going to feel better or worse depending on the door for us in our own journey. And so, and this is the whole thing in my own journey I've noticed is every time I bring more love into myself, every time I shed another layer of emotion and transmute it into love, every time I do that, it's like I knock myself up a little bit higher, and all of a sudden my reality, I raise my even working with my mental mindset, my old beliefs, my limiting beliefs, because we're so indoctrinated on this planet to basically live in fear and hate each other, and and to be completely disempowered. So we're very docile and controllable people. And so that whole that's it. And so of course bringing now the good thing about this whole love cultivation, like affirmation, like we did earlier on, like you presented really, really well, is it's like I said, when we can do that for a minimum of 2 minutes a day, 5 minutes, or even longer, depending on how much love energy you need to get yourself up there. A good analogy of this is like we can take someone, let's say myself or yourself 10 years ago, where we both essentially hate ourselves, or we're just not on our own side. We don't have a good relationship with ourselves, let's say. And that at that point at that version of ourselves, essentially, it's like, right, just imagine we're stood in the middle of a pond. And that pond represents our love for ourselves, the amount of love energy we have going on within ourselves, within our mind and our mental beliefs, and in our emotional state, just our whole being. And the more we practice this affirmation every day for 2 minutes a day minimum is what I suggest, practicing that, eventually what's going to start to happen is this pond's going to start expanding. And then it will turn into a lake. And the next thing you know, it's going to be a whole ocean, and you've got this little paddling boat, and you're having to paddle around in this ocean of love. And the good thing about this ocean of love as well is you can just take a dip into this ocean from your paddling boat, and you'll be bathed in love energy. Now, what that does, and the beauty of it, is just by having so much love energy present within our being, it means that any stuck emotion that's been lingering for lifetimes, themes of lifetimes, the same old thing, whether it's rejection trauma, abandonment trauma, abuse trauma, anger, sadness, or fear that's been stuck in us for so long, the love energy, without us even consciously trying to do anything, is just going to melt and transmute and alchemize those stuck emotions that have been with us for so long. And that just in itself is like, you don't have to, it's doing inner work for you. Like, while it's still good to do conscious inner work, because you can get really focused and narrow down specific points in your history that you want to look at, just by doing this, you're going to be doing the inner work anyway, without you even consciously trying. So that whole process in itself, I'd suggest everyone watching this, I challenge you, for the next 30 days, this is a bit of homework. Spend a minimum of 2 minutes, and at first you may need up to 30 minutes of consistent I love you, I love you, I love you, and experiment, use different affirmations, but try this once a day for the next 30 days, 2 to 30 minutes a day, until you feel your love tank is full, and see what happens. You might be very surprised, and of course, again, just really intend for it, really mean for it. And now, the whole point of this that I'm trying to get at is these two paths that I have right now, like this e-commerce business or my coaching. And it's like, right, I know the coaching is my long-term ultimate thing that I'm going to be doing. And then I've got this e-commerce business, which I see as supporting my long-term vision. It's not really a good example, but
it's a perfect example.
It is, yeah. It's like, yeah.
Where do all rivers lead back to? Knowing that it starts as a trickle in the mountain from the top as it enters into us and trickles down and filtrates through us as though we're the solid structure that is the mountain. That river then flows down, down, down towards, all rivers lead back to the same destination, back to the ocean. And knowing that as you cultivate that self-love, expanding it from a puddle to a pond to a lake, back to the ocean in completion, to realize that, hang on, I'm not a single droplet of water. I'm part of the ocean. Oh yeah, I'm the ocean itself. That realization is the game changer. It truly is. And to know that every river leads back to the ocean, you know that every destination is one of your creation, of your choosing. So you're going to end up back at the ocean. We're all going to end up back at the destination. It depends how many lifetimes we want to take in order to reach that destination. And it depends on which route that you wish to experience along the way. Self-love is the most powerful thing. And as you then take that dip, I would also ask that everybody actually lets go and surrenders to that love. I have, as I know most people that are awake and aware, have a fear of depths, of water that is deep, because at the depth of the ocean, there's all sorts of potential fearful entities and aspects of ourselves that we would rather not be in contact with. is knowing that every time something is you're experiencing at the moment, this inner conflict, it's like the currents and the currents of the seas bringing up that which is required to be seen. So every time that somebody triggers us, they've raised up a monster from the depths so that we can see it at the surface within the awareness and acceptance of it, if we can be aware and accept it, as opposed to trying to blame the other person for it, so that we can then actually integrate that back into the self. So it's knowing that, as you said earlier, that you are the light, and everywhere that you go, you shine your light and then you illuminate. So what used to be fearful or scary, when we shine our light into it, we can see the whole picture and realize that, oh, that's not that big a deal. It's not really that traumatic. It seemed so at the time because we could only view it through that small lens of perception. When we expand, we can see the whole picture. So I would ask that everybody actually dives right into the depth. So when you've taken a swim and you've got used to that self-love, dive in and actually breathe it into yourself. Drown in love. Then it becomes integrated into you, and literally is like the image I've just got is though it's like sweat. So it permeates out from you. Everywhere you go, you are love, and then you experience that love. It's a reminder that, again, you are the ocean. And some people may appear to be separate and cold in structure, but if you take a piece of ice and you place it into a cup of water, it melts back into the water, becomes back in completion to that water. Parts of yourself that you may feel are negative or that you have tried to stay away from are just like pieces of ice. When you fully accept that part of yourself with love, it melts it back into the whole and you become complete in yourself once again. It's all perfect. Every single thing that we experience is perfect. The universe is perfect, or it would not be so.
Yeah, that's it. I just want to really thank you for this basically podcast now turned into a coaching session. So thank you for that, because it's like that. I love how it's a perspective that I really needed to hear at this time, which was that everything all leads back to the same place, and it's like I've learned from my own spiritual teachers where they'll say, it's like this whole conflict that I've had for about 3 years now. And I know all the answers, but I just still, it's all about spirit will only let you know what you're allowed to know. And
whose spirit?
Spirit is our superconscious higher self.
So if we are everything, we can't be it all and then not some of it. Just the same as we can't say, oh, I'm responsible for the good things in life, but not the bad. It's either everything or nothing. We're always creating. Everybody listening to this, if you ever step into a place of feeling victimized or, oh, poor me, oh, I'm tired, or oh, I'm this, or oh, that person always takes and never gives, you're creating that. You're subconsciously creating it so that you can experience it, so you can learn and grow from it if you're able to step back far enough from it, but you're creating it. You either create it all or nothing at all. And your ego is a very massive part of that creation. But without an egoic self, there is no sense of self. If you don't have an ego to experience it, if you don't have a mind, then there's no experience at all. It would just be energy vibrating. It's the mind which interprets that energy vibrating as physical matter. And if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Without the mind, there is no matter. So when we can experience something separate to the mind, experiencing it in connection to our higher self, knowing that it's just an event or a situation, an experience, just as God watches it. That's interesting. Those people are killing each other. Those people are loving each other. That's interesting. There's balance in the equation there. It's all balancing itself out perfectly. Knowing that your choices are not only affecting you, but everyone around you. The higher you elevate yourself, the higher you elevate everyone around you. That's why we should always put ourselves first, always. And knowing that there's lots of different timelines and lots of different potentials, something very powerful that I've got that I use all the time now. And a lot of people I've shared this with almost think it's bypassing, but it's really not. So anything that is a potential future. So if there's something that you're slightly apprehensive about experiencing in the future, if you deny that and try to actually defy its existence, you're denying and defying a potential reality, knowing that everything is energy vibrating. And when we're not consciously aware of it or perceiving it, its potential, only when we come into contact with it does it become physical. I can see this wall, therefore it's physical. If I'm not in the room, it's only potential, unless somebody else is viewing it and creating it in material. So every time we have a thought, the first thing, the most powerful thing you can do is accept it. Oh, I'm going to go out tomorrow and I'm going to get hit by a bus and die. That's a very bizarre thought. That's not one that I'm going to create in this physical, but I'd accept it as a potential, because everything is a potential. Therefore, I accept that and I allow that to be experienced in one of the alternate realities. I allow that version of myself to experience that. I allow a version of myself to be a street living on the street, a homeless person living out in nature, maybe living hand to mouth and sustaining and living connected to the earth more, as opposed to being in a house and going about gaining material possessions and objects. As well as I allow another person, another version of myself, to be absolutely abundant in wealth, to the point where spending £100,000 on a holiday is nothing. It's meaningless to me. I allow both versions, and then I find balance in the middle. I allow the good and the bad to exist, and I find balance in the middle, choosing what I wish to experience. So, okay, there's a potential. I accept that, and I am actually focusing in creating this, and it's holding that final destination. My final destination is similar to what we were talking about with yours. I'm creating a charity. And 5 years ago, I got given the blueprint to create this global charity of basically educating parents and children into empowering themselves, as opposed to having that structure of control and fear that's placed upon children at the moment. Do this, sit there, have your dinner at this time, go to the toilet at this time, ask, do as you're told. All of that's gone. We don't do that anymore. We let children educate themselves, find their own paths. And this charity is such a large mission that I had no physical concept of how I'd bring it into being. None at all. I know everything I do is taking me towards that destination. So nothing I do is ever wrong. About 3 months ago, somebody contacted me that has been following my journey and impressed with what I'm doing. And they said, you need to contact this person. So I did. And he's created the charity already. The exact same charity, the exact same blueprint 5 years ago. Wow. So it's almost as though we were both given the program, the blueprint to it. And I'm like, right, that's it. I'm creating that. And then I've manifested him to create it and the entire team to create it. So there's now 22 of us that are all volunteering our time and energy in towards the creation of this global charity, knowing that I was like, so did I create that? Well, yes, because I create it all, just as you've created it all, just as you've created this conversation, so that we can share and inspire and uplift those that are listening, as well as go away and actually take the information and put it into our own tool belts, so that we can continue upon our journey with more information at our disposal, knowing that everybody always does the best they can do. And the more information we have means that we can actually choose more accordingly the best we can do. When somebody's an arsehole, all they're doing is they're going about trying to protect themselves to keep themselves safe. If they had more information about how to respond to a certain situation, they would choose the more beneficial outcome for everybody involved. Always is only the natural way of being.
Sure. Yeah. Brilliant. I love how with the charity as well, it's like, that's it. Everything is created for you. All there is you creating it for yourself. Yeah. But yeah. So that's really good. That's amazing how that's connected up for you as well. I love that. That's brilliant.
Just as it will do for you, just as whatever decision you make, as you said yourself, one will feel slightly more free flowing, one might feel a bit more heavy or a bit more constricting. It's tuning into the alignment and vibration of who you are, knowing that we have a brain but we also have the heart-centered brain. And whenever I make a decision now, I use my analytical, I step away from emotion, because emotion's a bit like tar. It's very beautiful to experience, but it's heavy and we get stuck in it. And we can almost get pulled under or drowning in it, like a river, again, flowing. Being logical in decision, if it comes from if it comes from just a human construct, then it's cold. So we use the heart-centered mind to make those decisions, knowing that it's beneficial for everybody, but not getting caught in the emotion, like testing the emotion of it, going, yeah, that feels good, and then continuing where we're going. So yeah, it's beautiful. It really is. It's all beautiful. It's all perfect.
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple of things I want to say there. Is I learned about a year ago that at the moment, as we are now collectively, we're first and foremost and most powerfully manifesting from our emotions. Mm-hmm. Then it's followed by energetics, and then it's thought. So, and I've seen that before. Now it ties in again with something about manifesting from emotion, and it was like you were saying there about, right, I'm not gonna act from my emotion anymore because you've had some bad experiences. Now, for me, it's exactly the same, and I'm only really going to say about negative emotions, quote unquote negative emotions, because they tend to be, the negative emotions is tied in with the ego. The ego wants to defend the self, and so projections happen, emotional reactions, and destructive things happen with relationships, for example. And this happened for me. So it was, so much to be said for not acting on your impulsive emotion. Sometimes now, this is the thing I have so much conflict about. We can have all of this stuff where we say, oh, people don't act on your emotions, like your heavy emotions, because it'll be bad for you, get destructive things will happen and all of this. But part of this whole conflict I've had about free will and the divine plan is it kind of doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Like it's all going to happen anyway. And it kind of gets to this point where it's like, I might as well just not say anything because it doesn't really matter.
Yes. And that's the deepest of truths, that none of it does matter. So if it doesn't matter, you may as well choose to experience the most joyful experience for yourself, even if it is potentially knowingly lowering somebody else. And this is a very, very tricky point that I got to, where I knew that everything's mathematically equated. So the more that I actually elevate myself to even it out, as though it's a seesaw, somebody has to actually weigh themselves down further to elevate me. But there's nothing that we do to another we don't do upon ourselves. So I'm not lowering somebody. I'm just choosing to raise myself. I know that in doing so, mathematically, somebody else will be lowering. They might not be consciously aware of this. That may be part of their karmic reason for being here in this life. But as I raise, because I'm focused on the evolution and expansion of consciousness of everybody, of the universe, I'm doing it from a heart-centered place of completion. It's for everybody. Everything I do is for everybody. So as I raise, I actually then cause the upliftment of everything. So if we likened it to a tower block, we used to live on the 3rd floor and we had a certain viewpoint. We've raised ourselves up to the 5th floor, and now we can see a wider landscape around us. And then we can actually share information with people down below. Okay, there's some different things over there. You're not able to see them from that perspective. I can actually share with you that information to enrich your experience as well. And then as we go up, we make space and create foundation for people to raise up to more unconsciously, let's say, so that we're increasing the vibration of humanity. So just naturally, we're raising up the collective.
Yeah.
Leading the way, brother. You're leading the way.
Appreciate it. Likewise, you are as well. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's it. every last part of us. Yeah, that's it. No, I really like the seesaw aspect as well, because it's like the whole seesaw eventually starts just lifting off the ground because it has no choice but to. So yeah, that's awesome.
Only though when we choose to raise ourselves, because otherwise raising ourselves for the collective as well. There will be people that will only raise themselves up, and they'll purposely do it to put others down, but they'll only raise up to a point where then they won't get any higher.
Yeah, of course.
We elevate the entire as it raises.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They'll only hit the ceiling because of everybody else not coming up with them. Yeah, it makes sense. Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to go back to that part where we were talking about, like, I said about, the whole free will and divine plan ego conflict, because it's like you said, absolutely, it's an ego conflict. It's like, my ego wants to know, did my relationship with my now ex-fiance fall apart last year because of XYZ? Like, did it happen for that reason, or was it always going to be this way? And that's the whole thing. It's amazing how, like, we can just let our minds go on overdrive. And I think my frustration really has been, like, I know that spirit knows, and my frustration is that I'm just not sensitive enough to know with my conscious mind as I am right now in this version of myself. Although I am sensitive enough, I just haven't tapped into it yet to get the clarity. But as time progresses on, it's like I know, and I continue working on myself, I realize actually, maybe this was how it was meant to go. But then I can't say that either, because there's so many different timelines.
Maybe.
Exactly. So this is why it's
all divine will. It's all divine will.
Yeah.
I'm in a similar situation. I have recently, this year, at the end of last year, just divorced. I've become divorced, and I am separate from my children half the week. I have them the other half the week. I know that I would have done everything and anything possible. I was walking through hell within myself in order to try to stay where I was in life. I know that I would never have consciously chosen to step away from them. But I also know that subconsciously I created a string of events which led me to where I am today. Because if I was not who I am and where I am today, I would not be doing this work, and I would never have done this work in this lifetime. I would have stayed keeping myself limited and working a job that I hated, and to provide, material safety for the ones that I loved, but never really providing them the truth to who I was. It's all part of it. It's all part of it. And as you know, with different timelines, there is a version of yourself which is still in connection to your fiance. You're still living together. That life's being enjoyed and experienced. Let that version of yourself have that life, because that version of yourself chose that life. This version that you are has a conscious choice about where you go now forwards, knowing that what you've experienced has been uplifting and enriching, thanking every person for the roles that they played in your game, taking back not only the controller to then control the avatar self, but also the pen to create the blueprint of the game as you go through playing it. We're experiencing the game as the avatar self, whilst playing it as the higher self, whilst creating it as eternal self, all just for the experience of why we play games, for the experience of it, for the enjoyment of it. We don't play a game to complete it. We play a game to experience it. Yeah.
Fun is in the journey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Knowing that we all get to the end, we're all going to complete our games in our different ways, and then collectively bring all that information together, returning it back home to self, and then maybe make an even more expansive and confusing game to play.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. If there's anyone else listening who's in this kind of similar confusion about did this thing that happened divine plan or free will, then really, and it's my own answer as well for myself, is that, and keeping in line with the topic of this discussion today, a man's love for himself is the more love that we bring into ourselves, the greater, the stronger our connection to source, Christ consciousness, all that is, God, whatever you want to call the stronger our connection becomes to spirit, the more clarity we have about events that have unfolded and are unfolding in our lives. So that's a bit of homework for me to do as well as, for anybody.
A beautiful, beautiful image. I'd like to share very quickly this meditation that I would love anybody listening to actually use, because it was created specifically for self-love. Inner love activation, receive divine unconditional love. It's one that I recorded a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And it's one of the most beautiful ones I've created so far. So it will activate your connection back to your true self, knowing that, as you say, the more love that we bring into ourselves. So this is the Mainstream Meditation channel. This is the second YouTube channel that we've created that's specifically for meditations. And there's all sorts of different playlists on there. Complete chakra series and unconditional love connections, ascension meditations. There's one that I've recorded, but I've not been given permission to share yet because it's basically too powerful. But I'd also like to actually send that over to you, because I think that's going to be incredibly powerful for you to take. It incorporates some trauma release, some trauma bond releasing, and inner child integration, as well as the beautiful journey. So I'll send you the link to that later if that's something you feel guided to do. As you were speaking about filling yourself with that love, likened to a balloon. The more air that we blow into a balloon, the bigger it becomes, the further it ascends. And as we raise up, we become closer in our connection to that divine wisdom. And we also become further disassociated with the workings of the world below us, so that we can see from a higher perspective somebody's journey. If we're walking on a path, let's say, and there's we're walking through a forest and we can't really see where we're going, we feel that where we're going, we've been walking for days upon days in the same direction, because that's the direction we thought we should take. And now we're starting to question and judge ourselves. Maybe we should turn to the right. And if you then broaden your perspective and have a look from the ascended perspective, from this separate perspective, we can see that just to your right, there's a big cliff. And if you turn right, you'll fall off. And actually just in front of you, if you just keep going for another 10 minutes, you actually come out into the opening and the beautiful, clear, expansive, rolling hills where you've been journeying towards. And it just takes that continued belief in yourself, knowing that if it feels right in your heart, if it's vibrating in alignment with who you are, then you're on the right course. And everybody listening is here to be only one thing: true to yourself. If we all live the true version of ourselves, then we create a world of true equality, true harmony, because we'll all be harmonized within ourselves. Therefore, everything externally will be harmonized. Focus on you. Do the inner work. Focus on actually bringing that love into yourself, knowing that as a man, it's something which is maybe being more kept away from yourselves as opposed to being a woman. Girls are okay to express their love more so than boys. Oh, I'm a boy. Oh, stiff upper lip, son. Crack on. Get on with it. Man up and all that old bullshit. So again, actually, the next meditation is a divine masculine one that will be released this coming weekend. So at the moment, there is a heavy focus on divine masculine feminine unity, knowing that we are men and women within the self, with the masculine and feminine energy exists in both of us, and allowing the feminine to flow through us creatively for myself is what has brought me the most joy and harmony.
Yeah, so brilliant. Have you found that it's a great example for me. I've been sat on this PC now for the past 3 days, getting loads of stuff done. It's been really good. I felt really good doing it for the most part, but then also overdone it. That masculine drive, action, just overtake for too long. And so for you, you said about you've got your squares. So I've been doing pretty much consistent squares, apart from maybe a circle before bed just to really chill out. But
nice.
How do you do your circles and squares?
My main enjoyment, so in the morning I ground, I go out and I stand barefoot on the earth. Our mother is the biggest circle we've got. And whenever we connect to her, it allows that beautiful feeling of relaxation just to flow through. I then make sure that I'm always keeping energized through connection to music, let's say, or something comical, keeping that childlike wonderment and excitement alive. And my boys, they fuel me. They're one of my biggest driving forces, because when I'm with them, I'm continuously messing around, being as playful as possible, like walking around and we see a bird and we're like making all bird noises, like, caw, 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 and like go and hide and play. And when I go shopping, I'm free in my expression of myself. So I will not cover my smile. I don't cover myself, and I never have, and I never will. And there was a point where it became there was conflict there, because as I realized, I created it. I was looking for it. And then the people were then attracted to me to show me that conflict, because I was seeking it. The last time I went shopping, I was going around like Supermaning on the trolley. So I pushed the trolley along and then jump up, and I was like Supermaning, going wee down the trolley, weeing, making noises of people literally stopping and looking at me, but then laughing. And then I know that I enriched their day. I was staying playful and joyful, whereas most people are very serious now, incredibly serious. Yes. Stand still, look at the ground, cover your face, do not express yourself. Yeah. Do as you're told, not what you want to do. And then there's me coming in and like disturbing the mix, like churning everything up, but doing so joyfully and playfully. And everybody's like, oh, yeah. And I went to yesterday morning to go get some bits, just as an excuse, really, to get out and see people as much as anything now. Well, what should we do today? Oh, let's go to the shops, see other human beings. Yeah. And everyone I came into contact with, every single person, I was like, how are you? How's your morning? And just that vibrancy, if you can admit it, then it bounces back to you. And then you just go into the shops. How are you? How's your day? Yeah, really good. Thank you. How's your day? Yeah, it's really great. And then you leave that person energized, but it also energizes you as well. Yeah. So every single experience is one to be grateful for, knowing that we don't have to be here. We don't. If you're feeling as though life's a bit heavy, a bit traumatic, something that, you don't really want to do, you've chosen to come here. And you could choose not to be here. Everything's a choice. You could choose not to go to work. It is a choice. May not feel like it is, but it is. You could choose to go to the restaurant that you really want to go to, that you're missing. You could go and break in that restaurant, and you could cook your own meal, and you could sit down and you could eat that meal. You could do it. You could go to your favorite restaurant and have a meal. It's going to have consequences to it. So it depends on whether you want to experience the consequences to making the choices leading to the actions. It's all free will. It's all free will. Everything we do is governed by free will. It's one of the most fundamental basics that I build everything from. This is my choice. This is my life. And I will wish to experience what I wish to experience. I'm not entertained. I know all that over there. I know it all. I know the repression, the control, the fear-mongering, I know. And actually what they're doing is they're teaching me how to use their tactics to liberate us. Yeah. And they're the people that are in the most fear, because they're fearful of losing what they have, and they don't have that connection to love. They're still utilizing the laws of existence. They still know the fundamental basics to energy mastery, which is what I've incorporated into the course, how to go about actually using universal energy to your advantage, how to become a manifesting master. But they do it with fear and control driving their bus. We use love. Who wants to get on the bus of fear when there's a bus of love next to it?
That's the thing. And that's it. Absolutely. Everyone's going to get on the bus of love, but people just don't realize that the bus of love even exists.
And that's why we do what we do.
Beautiful.
And that's why no matter what path you take, you are a being of love. It's clear to see. And as I said to you before, Zach, there's a space for you always. And whatever we do, creating going forwards, you're part of my journey in whatever way, whether it's from a distance or close up. I know that our journeys forward, we're co-creating this world of liberation. And it's such a beautiful image. I still can't put it into words quite what it is, because it's beyond the wordings that we even have access to at the moment. But again, that's the reason that the language has been created in the way it has. So it keeps us limited to our expression of the true self.
Yes. Yeah, so true. Yeah, no, I totally get that as well. Like, I've had a lot of, the word is kind of nostalgia, almost like I've been walking past or through, maybe in town or in my village here, and like I'll just get this feeling, and it'll be like that's coming from a past life or somewhere. I'll just get this energetic, and it's just like, wow, it feels so good. And you combine that with all the colors seem different these days. The sun is whiter and brighter than ever before. So yeah, it's an amazing feeling, isn't it? I
Truly
just
is.
like to, so on this topic, a man's love for himself. So how do you handle it when, let's say for example, of course you're feeling really good in yourself, having a great day, but then for one moment you're walking through town and there's someone who walks past you, and you kind of like you're smiling and you're ready to smile at them to try and brighten up their day, and then they either don't look at you, or they look at you but just don't return it, and just kind of, it makes them worse, or their day worse almost. And for whatever reason in that moment, that made you didn't have as much love in yourself in that moment as you normally would, and so you felt affected by that. You felt like, oh god, that brought you down a little bit. So how do you deal with that in that moment?
The same way that I am able to heal at a level of what is beyond even what I thought possible before. But the access to the information I now have is access to information. It's not me. When I create videos, it's not me. When I do sessions with clients, there's a blueprint that I use based on NLP and timeline therapy and parts integration, etc. But it's not me. So the way that I know that it is received accordingly, whether they reflect that back, that if you shine a light onto something, it receives the light. It may not react to the light. If you shine a light on a flower, it will open itself up and grow towards the light. You shine it on a rock, it's not going to do anything, but it's still receiving that light. Every single person is here by choice to play whatever character role it is in the experience that you are experiencing. When we think that it's our love, and that I'm giving my love, or I'm giving my time or my energy to somebody, and they've not received it, and how dare they, because I've gone out my way to give them my love, and they're not even accepting or receiving it or acknowledging it. Poor me. It's not your love. It's unconditional, universal love that flows through us. And when we flow it through us, whether the person receives it or appears to receive it or not, we're still experiencing it. It's still flowing through us. We're benefiting. So what does it matter if that person acknowledges it or not? It really doesn't. It's only by attaching the mind to it again that then we go, oh, well, I put myself out there and I wasn't received. So maybe they don't like me. So maybe I'm not good enough. So maybe I shouldn't put myself out next time to keep myself safe. Oh, hello, I'm the ego.
Yeah, that's it. Expectation. Yeah. Bang on. Brilliant.
So it is. Once we step out of the way, once we surrender ourselves in completion, surrender, and that's the crucial word here. I'm just a channel. I'm an instrument of the divine, and by doing so, I will experience and achieve things far beyond what this mind can even comprehend. This mind cannot comprehend the will of the divine. It cannot. It can experience it firsthand by allowing that divinity to flow through us. It cannot comprehend it, and it cannot understand it. So just accept it on a conscious level, knowing that in every film, every single film, there's a traumatic event that happens which leads the character down a different path, especially Disney films. Quite often there's a loss of a loved one. And it's that change of situation which leads the character down a new path towards a happy ever after. You would never get to where you're going without those experiences. And that person's love is always there.
Yes.
Always.
For sure. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you. Is there any final words that you'd like to share? How is it that, as I said, we've shared the screenshot quickly, but I just wanted to go back because just on your Facebook, one of your quotes, this one: you can't lock love down. You can't lock down love, which is incredibly true. And at the time when potentially everybody's feeling more controlled and repressed than ever before, knowing that love is just like that beautiful, uplifting energy that we breathe in and out with every breath, that we're always free to take that breath. And it's the surrenderance once again. So as we allow the breath to enter, we then surrender as it is released to be able to enjoy the next inhale. What final words could you give to somebody listening that is feeling slightly disconnected from the truth of who they are, from that love, specifically the men listening?
Okay. So to the men listening who realize the need or the importance of bringing in love energy into themselves at this particular time, and how it's more important than ever has been, especially not just for your own mental health, but also for the well-being of all of those around you as well. But really, if you want to take your life to the next level, if you want to be living expansively and freely and joyfully, happily and lovingly, you need to create all of those good feelings within yourself. And it's really simple. So just like the process I shared today, which I would suggest as homework for the next 30 days, I would suggest this to every one of you now. And for the men especially, it can be very strange and awkward feeling and very foreign when we're told, or we go to practice this idea of this practice of placing hands on our heart and saying, I love you. It can go against almost every societal belief system and structure we've been taught, especially in the UK, for example. So what I'd invite you to do is realize that you have both masculine and feminine energies within you. The same is true for all of us. And that in this particular process, I invite you to tap in more so to the feminine side of yourself and build rapport with that version of yourself, relationship with that version of yourself. So entering that, and just for the next 30 days, for a minimum of 2 minutes a day and up to 30 minutes a day, or for as long as you feel is needed on that particular day and moment, just to find a private space where you can either sit down, lay down, or even be stood up, and just place both your hands on your heart and just start a simple affirmation and keep a baseline affirmation of I love you. And play the I love you affirmation to yourself out loud over and over again, consistently. And incorporate other affirmations as well. Experiment and find ones that work for you. But anything that is loving in nature, compassionate, forgiving, caring, kind towards self. Focus that affirmation and intention into your heart space. 2 to 30 minutes a day for the next 30 days. And at the end of it, please come back to Kain and just tell him how it went. But this particular process will, if practiced with intention and focus, will change your life, will level you up into a version of reality from the inside out that you never could have possibly conceived of before. Well, maybe you could have conceived of it, but now you can actually live it. So that's my invitation. And may all who try this have the very best experience, whether the juiciest, most joyous, most loving experiences you could ever have from this point on. So take this tool and use it to best effect, please, for yourself.
Please. Thank you. Thank you, Zack. And yes, it's your intention that will bring it to be. If you decided to run a marathon, let's say, you wouldn't just start running a marathon. You wouldn't be able to do it. To be able to embody unconditional love for yourself is something that takes steps to reconnect to. We're born from love to return to love. Let's find that space in time to create the embodiment of it within this life, within this experience firsthand. And it's the smallest of changes leads to the biggest of changes. 2 minutes a day, every day. If you don't do it one day, then just allow for twice the time to be repeated the next day. If there's some reason that for whatever the placement didn't fall into positioning, that you become distracted or forget, then don't quit, because knowing that every step forward is one beneficial, that there is never any failings, that we're just falling around in learnings. So failure is falling around in learnings until realizing everything. That's the true expression of failure. That's for you, my brother.
That's really good. Thanks, bro. I have to write that one down. I'll get back to you on that.
Always failing. Fail as hard and as often as possible. Maybe not as hard, but as often as possible. Knowing that the more that you fail, the closer you are to success. And every time you fail, you become exponentially closer to that success. Mathematically, you're guaranteed to succeed. So maybe fail 100 times before you succeed, but you haven't got to fail that many times. But if you tried, I'm going to go out and fail today, accepting it, knowing that you're that much closer to success, that's a much better way of looking at failure than thinking, oh, I failed. And again, this is just the teachings that we've been given from our ancestors. They did the best they could do with the information they had. And I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this and for going upon this inner journey of discovery so that you can uplift yourself and create the betterment for everyone else. So you can pass this information on to those around you, to your children, and to the future generations to come, knowing that it is the children that will create the world of true equality and that we're laying the foundations for them to build upon. Thank you all. Zack, thank you for being on the show today. It's been a true honor. Thank you, my brother. And I look forward to speaking and catching up again soon. And thank each and every one of you listening. Please head over and connect with Zack. He's a beautiful, beautiful beacon of light, of divine masculine embodied. Go over to Facebook, connect with him. I'll put all the links in the descriptions below. And until next time, keep mindful. Keep shining your light of attention on that beautiful vision of creation that we are co-creating together now. Love, light, and infinite blessings. Namaste.
Much love.
Thank you, brother.